The Ogre King Rang, one of the Demon Lord's 4 heavenly kings, suffers a crushing defeat against a party of heroes. In his final moments, he thinks of his subordinate, Armilla, the vampire queen. Years later, Rang is reborn as an ordinary boy. One morning, he finds that the reincarnated Armilla has snuck into his bed, and she is eager to begin their plans for world domination. However, Rang only wishes to live a peaceful life. 1 month ago, Rang was just in class, minding his own business, and trying to fit in as a regular human being. Though he has lost his powers as a demon, Rang believes he can regain some of them by training. Rang was born as the lowest class of ogre, so he worked and trained hard to become appointed as one of the Demon Lord's 4 heavenly kings. Rang believed reaching such a position meant he could finally relax, but the other heavenly kings plotted his downfall. Suddenly, Sister Claire asks Rang to read aloud the next line on the textbook as punishment for daydreaming. Rang's classmates pity him, as there is no way he could recite the ancient texts that they haven't been taught yet. To everyone's surprise, Rang recites the text perfectly. Rang belatedly realizes that he unconsciously revealed a part of his old self because he was distracted. Later that evening, Rang practices his combat skills against a Zell, a slime-like monster that attacks humans on sight out of spite. To improve his training sessions, Rang has been improving the Zell with strengthening magic. Rang tightly grips the Zell's appendage, crushes it, and leans back for a powerful punch, strong enough to splatter the Zell across the ground. Rang still has a long way to go before he regains his original strength. A few days later, Rang walks home along with his friend Renton. Suddenly, a young girl approaches them, and Renton tries to hit on her. The girl ignores Renton and goes straight for Rang. She embraces Rang and acts overly familiar with him. It doesn't take Rang long to figure out who she is. He takes Armilla to a secluded location so they can speak in private. Rang is surprised to see that Armilla was also reincarnated. Armilla believes she was reincarnated because she wished really hard for it. She's been trying to look for Rang for a while, but it wasn't until recently that she could pinpoint his location, most likely due to his accidental magic use earlier. Renton waves goodbye, and Armilla considers killing him to keep him quiet. Armilla has always been rather violent, and Rang even thinks that she was born to kill. Rang asks Armilla about her family, and she reveals that her human parents and other relatives died during a war. Fortunately, Armilla was blessed with a pure, innocent appearance, so guards and soldiers let her go as she pleased. Regardless, Rang knows how hard it must have been for her to live as a human, and he commends her for making it this far. Armilla is overjoyed to see her master once again. Rang doesn't mind letting Armilla stay by his side once more. However, Armilla expresses her desire to conquer the world with him once more. When Rang learns of her intentions, he declares that he does not wish to start a war, but to live out the remainder of his years in peace. Rang leaves her. The next day, Renton asks Rang about Armilla, but he brushes it off. Rang is concerned that Armilla might not give up so easily, especially since he knows how serious she is now. Rang wants to preserve the peace he's obtained for himself. When classes end, he asks Renton to go ahead of him while he attends to other matters. While walking through the market, Rang wonders what he should have for dinner. He suddenly hears Renton scream, and he rushes to his location. He discovers Renton is being harassed by 2 middle-aged men trying to pull off an insurance scam. Rang tries to reason with the 2 men to let Renton go, but they demand that a 10-year-old boy pay for their medical expenses. Rang points out that the old man's arm looks fine, which causes them to put their hands on him. Rang could easily deal with them now, but he doesn't want to draw attention to himself. Rang cries for help, alerting 2 guards to their location and forcing the 2 men to run away. After answering some questions, Rang checks on Renton. He tries to help him up, but Renton suddenly slaps a bracelet on his wrist. Rang recognizes that it is a bracelet that saps magic power, and he slowly loses consciousness. When Rang opens his eyes, he finds himself on a large bed with Armilla next to him. She literally came out of nowhere. Armilla is glad that Rang has opened his eyes, and she hurries off to prepare his breakfast. Rang prevents her from leaving and demands an explanation for his current situation. Armilla explains that she just wants Rang to understand the unique position he's in as a former heavenly king. She refuses to believe that Rang has no need for her, so she used a little bit of charm magic to manipulate the townspeople to orchestrate that little alleyway incident. Armilla returns with breakfast in bed, and she forcibly feeds Rang one of the sandwiches. Armilla swears that they aren't poisoned, which is what poisoners usually say. Armilla bites into it, convincing Rang that the food is safe to eat. It reminds him of the times when they were both demons in the army. Armilla excitedly asks if the food reminded him of his ambitions to rule the world, and Rang tells her that it hasn't. Armilla takes the tray of food away, which gives Rang a few minutes to try and pry the bracelet off. He fails to remove it, but he notices a small keyhole in the center. Armilla returns with large stacks of books and documents, so she can begin tutoring him. While Armilla explains the book's contents, Rang spots a key around her neck. He tells Armilla that he has no intention of becoming a king again, and she replies that his opinion means nothing. He's going to become king whether he wants to or not. Later that evening, Rang sneaks into Armilla's room to try and steal her key. He carefully climbs onto the bed and tries to reach for it, but Armilla wakes up. She believes that he's here for a late-night rendezvous, so she grabs him and pushes him onto the bed. She doesn't dislike how assertive he's being, but she offers to lead him anyhow. Suddenly, Rang kicks Armilla away, which surprises her, as he shouldn't be able to move. Rang kicks her again, but she avoids it. However, he wasn't aiming for the kick. He snatches the key around her neck and uses it to unlock the bracelet. Armilla doesn't get how he was able to gather that much power without magic. Rang explains that the magic nullification bracelet affects its user within a radius, so his left leg wasn't as affected as the rest of his body. Armilla is impressed that Rang knew that, and in ordinary circumstances, this would make him the winner. Unfortunately, Armilla is a sore loser. She uses her charm eyes on Rang to force him to comply. However, Armilla seems to do nothing more than slightly illuminate the room. Her charm eyes only work on those with a weaker magic capacity, and Armilla is sure that hers is higher than Rang. Rang decides to show her just how wrong she is. Rang starts building up magic power in his body, steadily increasing his power level higher and higher. Armilla is already more than impressed, but Rang isn't done yet. Rang shows off his magical capacity of 10 million, which is the result of the daily training he's been doing for nearly a decade. Rang asks Armilla if she still feels like not giving up after he hits her with the punch of a lifetime. In the blink of an eye, Rang teleports in front of Armilla and attacks her in the stomach. Armilla is thrown into the wall, but it doesn't break thanks to a barrier she set up earlier. Rang shakes Armilla awake, and the moment she opens her eyes, she jumps to Rang and embraces him again. Her worries that Rang had lost strength were completely unfounded, and she acknowledges her defeat. Rang reiterates that he has no plans of conquering the world, and this time Armilla concedes to him. Rang travels back to his hometown using nothing but the position of the sun and the shape of the mountains. Rang slowly enters the door, and his father Durrell welcomes him back. Durrell doesn't seem concerned that Rang has been gone for 12 hours. However, he has something more important to discuss. He has a girl he wants to introduce him to. Armilla steps out from the back. How'd she get here before he did? Rang accuses her of charming her father, and she replies that she did no such thing. Durrell explains what Rang already knows, that Armilla's parents died, and she has lived a hard life since then. Durrell has decided to let Armilla live with them. Armilla has already offered to work as a live-in maid. She may have promised not to take over the world, but she made no promises about leaving Rang alone. Rang expresses his opposition to Armilla staying here, so Durrell tries to talk some sense into him. Armilla is a girl his age working as a maid in his house. There are literally no downsides to this, so he doesn't get why Rang is so opposed to the idea. Rang begrudgingly goes along with it, and he consoles himself with the fact that he'll be able to keep a closer eye on her. Rang wonders if he'll ever obtain the peaceful life he's always dreamed of. The next day, Armilla enters Rang's school as an exchange student, and Sister Claire introduces her to the rest of the class. Unfortunately, Rang attracts unwanted attention when word gets out that he is an acquaintance of Armilla's. This is precisely why he didn't want to tell anyone. Armilla takes her seat next to Rang. Renton, who is seated behind them, invites Armilla to play after school. Armilla turns him down, explaining that she has to work as Rang's maid afterwards. This opens its own can of worms, prompting even more questions and annoying inquiries. When the girls ask what Armilla means by that, she explains that she has given her body and soul to Rang. The girls squeal. The boys pick up pitchforks and torches. Sister Claire prays for their sins. Rang's boring but blissful school life is slipping away from his fingers. During lunch break, Rang finally gets to be alone. While walking by the window, he notices Armilla and Sarah, a girl from his class. He observes Sarah bullying Armilla, and he's worried that Armilla might cause a bloodbath. Rang rushes outside and chases the girls away, but neither he nor Armilla know what that was all about. Claire walks by and explains that the girls most likely have feelings for Rang, and they were taking out their frustrations on Armilla. Armilla nearly chases after the girls so she can murder them, but Rang holds her back. Claire curiously asks if Armilla and Rang are meant to be together, just as Armilla had claimed. Armilla brags and claims that she and Rang were already fated to be together in a past life. Claire asks how she can know who she's destined for, and Armilla tells her that she'll know it when she sees it. Claire gets a little carried away talking about love with Armilla, which causes Rang even more trouble. Later that evening, Armilla prepares a scrumptious feast for Rang and his father to enjoy. Armilla is happy that she has gotten Sister Claire to approve of their relationship. Darryl decides to give Armilla a little gift to celebrate. Darryl shows them to Rang's room, which now contains an extra bed for Armilla to use. Rang opposes sleeping in the same room as Armilla, and Darryl just laughs at him. Rang's life is completely ruined. As night falls, Armilla climbs into Rang's bed. When he protests, she remarks that it is only a matter of time before they sleep together again anyway. So what's the point in waiting? Rang karate chops Armilla to keep her in line, and he presses her to go back to her own bed. Rang draws a line to separate their rooms, and he even forbids Armilla from trying to talk to him. Armilla tears up at this cruel and unusual punishment. Rang turns around and pretends not to see anything. Rang waits for Armilla to fall asleep, and once she does, he sneaks out to the outskirts of the city so he can train. He loves the feeling of being alone. As Rang thinks about what his first workout should be, Armilla, exhausted from chasing him so far, arrives. She knew that Rang would go out and train on his own, so she kept her eyes open the entire time. Armilla eagerly asks Rang what exercise he plans to do today. Rang says that he isn't doing anything special. He's just going to fight Azel. Armilla is unimpressed, as she believes Azel is an insufficient challenge. Rang dares her to try and fight one. Armilla asks for a weapon, but Rang has no weapons to give. Armilla observes the Zell and is confident that she can beat it using low-tier magic, but Rang tells her that she must strictly use her fists. Armilla isn't very good with physical attacks, but she's confident that she can at least defeat a Zell. Rang tosses the Zell over to her, and Armilla throws a right straight. However, the Zell uses its slimy body and attaches itself to Armilla's hand. She tries in vain to shake it off, prompting Rang to step in and punch it himself. He instructs Armilla to coat her fist with magic, even though he told her not to use magic earlier. Armilla does as Rang instructs her to, and she successfully repels the Zell. Rang congratulates her on pulling it off, but this is when things get harder. He strengthens the Zell using magic and turns it into a more formidable foe. This time, Armilla not only has to deal with its slimy consistency, but she also has to contend with its faster magic attacks. Armilla puts up an admirable effort to block its attacks, but the pressure slowly becomes too much for her to bear. She's about to reach her limits, but Rang encourages her to hang in there. Finally, Armilla manages to land a punch and sends the Zell flying. Armilla is exhausted, and she's impressed that Rang manages to do this every day. She asks him if she can get rid of all the Zell goo on her skin, and Rang allows her to. Armilla immediately starts removing her clothes in front of him, and Rang looks away despite Armilla allowing him to stare as much as he wants. She walks into the nearby river and continues to playfully tease him. Rang yells at her to hurry up and wash herself already. Armilla whines that Rang won't even try to sneak a peek at her. Rang tells her to stop talking and to start washing. Armilla begrudgingly washes herself and dries herself off using wind magic. Rang tosses Armilla her clothes. He's disappointed that he wasn't able to get any real training done tonight. He suddenly senses an immense magic power coming from nearby. Armilla senses it too. A demon rushes toward them and stops a few feet away. Rang recognizes the demon as Muir, one of his old subordinates. Muir is suspicious at first, but he slowly realizes who Rang and Armilla are as he gets a feel for their magic power. Rang is glad to see that Muir is still alive and well after escaping from the heroes. Muir can't believe that Rang was reincarnated as a human, which gives him the ambitious idea of enslaving him and making him his pet. Armilla admonishes him for thinking of rebelling against their lord, but Muir pledged his allegiance to Rang the Ogre King, not Rang the 5th Grader. In fact, he might be able to make both Rang and Armilla his minions. Seeing Muir and Armilla argue like this reminds Rang of the good old days. He taunts Muir, calling him a dog that's all bark and no bite. Muir isn't fazed, even in the slightest. Armilla grows angry enough that she wants to take Muir out right now, so she uses her demonic vision against him. However, Rang covers her eyes. He has a better way to settle the score. He has Armilla sit down to face off against the 400-pound Muir in an arm wrestling contest, which is an ancient tradition to find out which demon is the strongest. Muir apologizes in advance if he ends up snapping Armilla's arm like a chicken wing. Despite all her bravado, Armilla isn't sure she can beat Muir in a contest of strength. Rang reassures her that she can win. Rang serves as the referee, and after ensuring both are ready, he initiates the bout. To their mutual surprise, Muir and Armilla appear evenly matched in terms of strength. Just as Rang suspected, magic body enhancement is more effective if the user's magic is focused on a single point. Thanks to Armilla's earlier training, she can hold her own against the much larger Muir. Muir refuses to lose against Armilla. It just doesn't make sense to him. He releases even more magical energy, but he spreads it far too thin for it to make a difference. Likewise, Armilla steadily increases the magic power in her arm, until eventually she smashes Muir's hand right through the boulder they were arm wrestling on. Muir can't believe he lost. Rang tries to give Armilla a pat on the back to congratulate her, but she's exhausted so much power that a simple tap is enough to make her fall over. Eventually, Muir and Armilla reconcile. It is best for the Ogre clan to remain united. Muir apologizes to Armilla, and she instructs him to loyally obey Rang from now on. Rang asks Muir if he wants to arm wrestle too, but Muir knows better than to risk losing his right arm. Since they cannot bring Muir into the city, Rang instructs him to remain in the forest until he is needed. The next day, Rang and Armilla notice an elevated level of security in the city. They run into Renton, who informs them that classes have been cancelled today. It turns out that a monster has managed to sneak into the city. Since they have no classes, Renton uses this as a chance to go fishing near the river, and he drags Rang and Armilla along with him. Armilla wants to fish too, since she's been using her charm eyes to trick the vendors into giving her large discounts. Renton notices a dark shadow swimming underneath the water's surface. Rang warns him to get out of the way. Azel leaps out of the water, but Renton manages to make a quick retreat. Armilla remarks that this must have been the same Zell that they trained against yesterday. However, Rang can't act without arousing suspicion. Fortunately, Rang's father happens to be on patrol nearby. He slides down the hill and yells at them to get away. When they reach Durrell, Rang instructs Renton to go with Armilla and call for reinforcements, while he and his father keep the Zell busy. Rang whispers to Armilla to do the same. As they leave, Durrell tells his son to step back so he can show off his real power. The Zell snaps Durrell's spear in half. That's his real power in action. The Zell smacks Durrell and knocks him out in a single hit, leaving Rang as the only fighter remaining. Rang, eager to get back at the Zell for hurting his dad, nearly forgets that Renton is still nearby. He can't use his magic in front of them, but he spots his father's helmet and gets an idea. The Zell crushes the earth right in front of Rang, which kicks up a thick cloud of dust, which gives Rang the perfect opportunity to wear his father's armor. Despite the drastic height difference, Renton believes that the person wearing the helmet is Durrell. Armilla gets the message and keeps up the charade, so Renton remains convinced. Armilla's acting is a little flawed, but it lets Rang fight without worry. He starts fighting the Zell, but he makes sure not to defeat it right away. Armilla exclaims that Durrell is about to use his special move, and Rang wonders what kind of move that would be. Rang wastes no more time, and he just kills the Zell straight away. Thankfully, Renton is gullible enough to believe anything Armilla says. Rang uses the little time he has left to return his armor to his father. A few minutes later, Renton and Armilla return with reinforcements. Renton runs up straight to Durrell to praise him for defeating the Zell in such an awesome way. Durrell isn't sure if he hit his head or not, but he won't say no to being praised like this. It also helps that Rang and Armilla keep up the charade. The guard finds it hard to believe that a lazy bum like Durrell actually killed a monster, but the proof is in the pudding. To their surprise, Captain Gale makes an appearance. Gale approaches Durrell and invites him out for drinks so he can hear all about how he killed the demon. However, Rang is wary of Gale, as he knows that the captain is just using drinks as an excuse to gather information. A few days later, Gale throws a huge feast to celebrate Durrell's great deed. Rang asks why slaying a single Zell would warrant such a celebration, and Gale explains that the king's general has arrived today, and they want to meet the hero who fended off the Zell. This is all thanks to Renton spreading the word around town about what Durrell did. Gale remarks that they had to prepare a lot since they needed to be ready to satisfy the general. Armilla grabs a plate and returns with some food for Rang. He suddenly feels his demon senses tingle, but Armilla notices nothing amiss. Gale calls everyone's attention so they can welcome the general. An old man enters the room whose long, slightly unkempt hair evokes images of a willow tree. Rang recognizes that aura of death anywhere. That's Levi, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon Lord's army. Levi appears to have taken over the general's body. He is a wicked creature, infamous for his cruel and merciless necromancy. Rang makes a conscious effort to stay as far away as possible. Levi calls Durrell on stage and acclaims him as a hero who saved the city. In honor of his achievement, Levi awards Durrell a Medal of Honor. Levi's actions seem harmless enough, though Rang wonders if he could still pose a threat. However, by the look on his face, Levi has already deduced that Durrell is a huge sham. Levi greets the rest of the partygoers before retiring for the evening. Rang knows that Levi's favorite snacks are the souls of children, so he wants to keep a closer eye on him. He follows Levi's carriage to the Royal Hotel. He and Armilla sneak outside the hotel room, and he has Armilla activate her hearing magic. They eavesdrop on Levy's room and learn that he is tracking down Rang. As they listen in, Rang realizes that Levy was the one who orchestrated his death by cleverly directing the heroes toward him. Rang is just about ready to jump in, but Armilla implores him to calm down. If Rang attacks Levy now, he won't be able to escape the consequences. Rang appreciates that Armilla kept his feelings in check. He wants to expose Levy for who he is in front of everyone, and he has just the right plan for the job. The next day, Armilla approaches one of the bellhops and gives him a letter, claiming that a mysterious man gave it to her. The bellhop's eyes widen as he reads the letter, and moments later, the hotel explodes. The bellhop rushes into the hotel and yells at everyone to evacuate. Chaos ensues as guests, chefs, and workers pour out of the building. Rang's explosion did just the thing. Levy and his men come running out of the building, and Rang claims that he saw the criminal, a man with dark skin and horns, running in a certain direction. Levy takes the bait. He orders his men to split up into groups so they can hunt this demon down. With Levy and his men gone, Rang and Armilla have free rein to dig up evidence from his room. However, Darl shows up, which was not part of Rang's calculations. Rang finds a secluded spot to hide until Armilla accomplishes his mission. Levy asks him what he plans to do after that. Rang tries to calmly talk his way out of this situation, but internally he's panicking. He's afraid that Levy has already snitched him out, but he dares not take the risk of fighting him right here and now. Levy's attention shifts elsewhere, and he leaves Rang alone. Fortunately, Levy's magic detection skills are just as rough and rudimentary as Armilla's. A few minutes later, Armilla returns. She trips over herself, but she returns. She presents Rang with a variety of objects that she stole from Levy's room. She proudly exclaims that they're all filled with demonic energy, which would easily prove that Levy is a demon. However, Rang points out that only demons can detect the demonic energy within objects. He notices a small cat clock among Levy's belongings. Armilla explains that they are popular among demons, even though demons can't keep them. This is because cats do not exist in the realm of demons. This gives Rang an idea. Later that evening, Darl returns completely exhausted. He informs them that one of their classmates has disappeared. Rang and Armilla nod at each other. Levy was most likely responsible. Darl advises them both to stay indoors, and he reassures them that they have a general on standby. Rang asks if this general is strong, and he replies, "Not really." This general supposedly fought on the front lines for decades, but after he led a successful battle at the Langri Plains, he was injured and forced to use a cane. Armilla returns to the table, carrying a cup of tea for Darl. Darl takes a sip of the tea and is knocked out cold in an instant. He'll be asleep for 3 whole days and nights, and Armilla credits all the sleeping drugs she stole earlier. Rang begins removing his father's armor, which causes a book to fall out. Rang picks it up and realizes that his father has been studying demons using a demon encyclopedia. Rang flips through the pages and finds a section dedicated to him, back when he was still a demon. Armilla tries to sneak a peek, but Rang pushes her back. He discovers an entry about Levy, and if someone as idiotic as his father has read about him, that means the rest of the garrison knows about Levy too. The conditions are perfect. Rang springs his plan into action. Later, a handful of soldiers and Levy gather at the barracks after being summoned there by a mysterious third party. Rang disguises himself as Darl by wearing his armor and using a special item to imitate his voice. Rang declares that he knows that a demon kidnapped a child recently, and he reveals that there is a demon among them. Understandably, the soldiers turn hostile. How could Darl suggest that one of them is a demon? Rang points out that all the recent explosions, demon attacks, and kidnappings have escalated ever since a certain someone joined them. That certain someone is their general, or rather, the king of the dead Levy. Gale denounces Rang's treasonous remarks, and he asks him to show some proof. That's exactly what Rang was waiting for. Rang claims that Levy has taken over the general's body posthumously. Levy, in reply, calls him a madman. Rang states that he has proof. He brings out a small black cat. As Gale and the other soldiers know, cats and other small animals do not exist in the demon realm, as they make easy prey. Consequently, extremely powerful demons wouldn't know what a cat sounds like. Levy raises an eyebrow. Of course, he knows what a cat sounds like. They go cock-a-doodle-doo. The soldiers murmur amongst themselves. That was probably the worst guess anyone could ever make. Gale asks what this could mean. Rang brings out the cat clock and presses down on its head, which causes it to crow like a rooster. This is because its creator could only speculate on what cats sound like. Despite this damning evidence, Levy writes off this whole situation as nonsense. Since Levy continues to deny everything, Rang moves on to his next step. He asks Levy if he remembers the Battle of the Langri Plains. Levy replies that he does. Rangda points out that he was supposedly injured in that battle, which forced him to use a cane, but Levy seems just fine. Levy tells his men not to listen to such baseless accusations. Levy is against the ropes, and it's time for the finishing blow. Armilla throws the door open, bringing with her an updated autopsy report and the proof they need to bury Levy for good. Armilla enters the room with the girl who was recently kidnapped, and she reveals that she found him inside Levy's house. The soldiers take a step back. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence against their general. Rang demands that Levy reveal his identity. Levy abandons the charade. His cool, calm demeanor melts away. His eyes become bloodshot, and his teeth become crooked. Some of the soldiers turn away in fear, but some stay and fight. Armilla grabs the girl and brings her to safety, and Gale leads the remaining soldiers to capture Levy. However, Levy simply unleashes a pulse of his dark magic, instantly knocking out the weaker soldiers, while Gale remains conscious. Levy is impressed that he's still standing, but that's the extent of it. Levy stomps on him and grinds him beneath his boot. Levy encourages Gale to stop talking and surrender, recalling how the general similarly struggled in vain. Levy stomps on Gale's head repeatedly, demanding that he surrender. Rang just stands there for some reason. However, Gale's will remain strong, as he knows that the general resisted for as long as he could. He will follow his example. Gale grabs his knife, stabs Levy in the leg, and latches onto him. He calls Rang for assistance, but Levy simply kicks Gale away, seemingly killing him. He turns his attention to Rang but sees no sign of him. He looks back to where he kicked Gale and discovers that Rang has rescued him. Rang raises his visor, revealing that he isn't Duril. Levy asks him who he is, and Rang remarks that he'll find out soon enough. Levy squints his eyes and recognizes Rang as the boy he met before. Rang says that he switched places with Duril, also he could beat him up. Levy tells him to shut up. Levy throws a shadow ball at Rang, but Rang walks away from it unscathed. All it did was mess up his shirt a little. Armilla joins Rang and tells him that she escorted the little girl home. Levy starts putting the pieces together. Rang possesses seemingly inhuman resistances, and Armilla called him Lord. Rang spells it out for him. Long time no see. Levy unleashes a pulse of demonic energy, and Rang matches it. He instructs Armilla to take care of the injured soldiers. Levy pokes fun at how fitting it is that a little worm like Rang has reincarnated into a human. Rang replies that he likes the peaceful life associated with being human. He may despise fighting now, but he still owes Levy for betraying him and leaving him dead in his past life. Levy asks him if he can afford to be hit by his magic. He throws out a shadow ball, but Rang simply sticks his arm out and catches it, as if by magic. Rang belittles Levy's magic, which can supposedly evaporate human beings in a single hit. Levy changes his perspective. If his shadow ball spell won't work, that's because he isn't using enough shadow balls. Levy unleashes a barrage of shadow bullets, which contain more power than an ordinary shadow ball. They score a direct hit against Rang, but as the smoke clears, Rang walks out like he just took a warm shower. At this point, Levy has no idea what's going on. It feels like he's being pranked. It's Rang's turn to throw something back. He conjures a lightning bolt in his hands and hurls it at Levy. It flies right past Levy's face, burning some strands of his hair in the process. Levy throws his coat down. If Rang wants to see real power, they'll give him real power. Levy musters all the dark energy he has at his disposal and conjures a massive, supreme black bullet. Surely not even Rang could survive this. Levy unleashes his trump card on Rang, prompting the latter to fight back with a similar amount of magical energy. The resulting clash of their magic caused stray bolts to rain on Armilla and the survivors, but her shield holds strong for now. Rang cuts through Levy's supreme black bullet, seemingly without great effort. Rang thanks Levy for the warm-up. Levy doesn't understand how he could have lost, especially since dark magic is the most powerful form of raw magic. Rang explains that Levy hadn't fully mastered his magical abilities because he's always been in second place. Levy refuses to face reality, and he desperately tries to keep Rang away with pitiful blasts of magic. Rang approaches Levy menacingly. Levy falls to his knees and begs for his life, and he tries to appeal to Rang's sense of camaraderie. He claims that he's always admired Rang, but Armilla produces a voice recording of Levy clearly stating his intent to kill Rang and that his hair is whack. This is irrefutable proof. Despite this, Levy continues to beg for his life. Rang stares at him for a moment before deciding to spare him. Levy thanks him profusely for his mercy. Armilla doubts the wisdom of letting Levy go, but Rang convinces her that Levy is just another piece of trash now. That piece of trash has been mustering all the power he has left into a small, condensed shadow bullet. He waits for the opportune moment to strike. The moment Rang turns his back and takes a few steps forward, Levy stands up and declares that he is going to attack, the one thing you shouldn't do when launching a surprise attack. Rang turns around and swats Levy's attack right back at him, which splits his husk of a body open. Levy asks Rang how he knew he was going to attack, besides him declaring it. Rang replies that he could tell Levy was going to try something like that. A ghastly mist escapes Levy's body, which Rang recognizes as Levy's soul trying to escape. He destroys Levy's soul for good, leaving nothing but the general's body behind. Rang apologizes to the general and hopes he can rest in peace. He also rewards Armilla with a few pats on the head for all her hard work. Rang looks around. Barring the unconscious soldiers and a few broken walls, they walked away from this relatively unscathed. Now it's time to clean up. A few hours later, Gale regains consciousness. Armilla rushes over to him and claims that Darrell killed the demon. She explains how she watched the whole thing unfold from behind the door. Gale runs over to Darrell and slaps him awake. Darrell's first question is why Gale is inside their home. Armilla proclaims that Darrell saved them all after deducing Levy's true identity and subsequently slaying him. Darrell has no idea what's going on. Thanks to Armilla's excellent storytelling, Gale believes every word. She tells the rest of her men that Darrell saved them all, and they celebrate him as a hero. Darrell has absolutely no idea or memory of what happened, but he isn't the type to turn down the spotlight. Rang's worried that this might have consequences in the near future. Eventually, Levy's properties were discovered to have contained the remains of several children, and his evil deeds came to light. Darrell also rose to fame and prominence for his supposed deeds of slaying demons. Rang can't help but feel a little disappointed that Levy became so weak. Armilla remarks that Rang simply grew stronger. Rang wonders if this growth spurt is the result of his training during the development stage of a child's body. Upon arriving home, Darrell drops a bombshell. They're moving out tomorrow.